how would you come up and start a trade? And that's what this region is suffering from. And I like to see that people like you come forward and take that kind of leadership, as opposed to creating Telangana or other places. Just see where we are going. We should be on the other side. The other day, someone in my hotel was very proud about Uttarakhand. I said, very good. But why are you so proud about it? You couldn't answer. I used to know in Uttar Pradesh. Now that is Uttarakhand and UP, and then Bihar, become Jharkhand, Bihar. And then Maharashtra became another fourth state. We used to be Gujarat and Maharashtra together. We used to call Saurashtra. Now, so you have to understand these very important developments which are taking place in our country, which is not very healthy. We are segmenting the country, and we should play an integrated role, including Afghanistan and Pakistan. But we are separating our states. That's the kind of leadership we are expecting from this country. If Vivekananda was living today, that's what he would have focused on. So, anyway, I think we should not feel negative. There are periods where we can take a holistic approach that, we are living through different forces of nature. These forces are real.
So what is the third piece of the Vedic philosophy?
Oh, the third piece of Vedic philosophy is very simple, which again comes from Vivekananda very well. Serve people as gods, serving humanity as gods. So that's very important. I'm glad that you brought it up. Because one of the things where we have done very good in our country, as much we talk about it, and everyone there is divine, but we are not treating each other in that respect. We lie very easily. We find excuses very easily. We find it too easy to create an excuse. Create a very easy, it comes so easily. But what we do not realize, as soon as you are creating an excuse for me, you're basically disrespecting me. But as you disrespect me, the other very bad way you're disrespecting yourself. And I think we've lost that. In fact, we have lost all the time. So I think we have to bring that back. I'd like to see that this becomes part of the, and maybe you and I can work on that. How to divide in the context of management education. The some principles of education. Now, so this is the tornado I'm talking about. These are one of the tornadoes, the three tornadoes. But this tornado you are living through, and this is just the start of the tornado, which is the power of computing, communications, content, and commerce coming together. It's never happened before. In other words, you are living in a marketplace which is open 24 hours, which is hitting with your advertisements all the time, which is either you participate or you don't participate, but you are in the market 24 hours. You have to figure out what is the role that you want to play, or do you want to shut it off. So that there could be a sharp strategy also. But this is the tornado that we are living through. Now, what will the next 25 years look like as a result? So look at the way I'm structuring my thoughts. We talked about the last 2,500 years, globalization. Then we talked about the three revolutions. Then we talked about the forces of the world. Now we're moving to the future. So what will the future be? Now, when you talk about globalization, one of the most fundamental difference between the past globalizations being so far organizations got globalized, countries got globalized, Royal Shell, East India Company, Procter & Gamble, Lever, Citibank. But what has really changed, thanks to the digitization, individuals are globalized. So anyone, it could be in a small village in Bihar, but when he is a mobile broadcom and has carrying this, he's communicating with the world. The other way around, you may have a very good customer in your backyard, but as soon as you're falling short vis-a-vis a competitor in Vietnam, the Vietnamese company becomes the chosen partner of your customer in your backyard. That's a very fundamental shift that all the last 2,500 years was the globalization of institutions or organizations. Now we're talking about globalization of individuals. Second big change, that when we talk about technologies in the past, it was good enough to say that I am a steel technologist, I am a metallurgist, I am a chemical engineer. But in the future, it's not good enough to say I am a chemical engineer. It's how you bring different technologies together to create solutions. Your ability as an integrator is as important, if not more important, than your ability to connect technologies together. So people who are not engineers in this room, you should feel you have a strategic advantage. You have a strategic advantage. First, you have to learn and keep learning in your engineering, but you would be able to integrate better because you are not suffering from the mindset that I'm a civil engineer, I don't care about metallurgists. I'm a metallurgist, I do not care about chemical engineering. But your ability to integrate engineering. The third point is that over the last 100 years, generally the commodity prices, if you look at minerals, if you look at petrochemicals, they have been steadily coming down on real price, real terms basis. But in the future, because of countries like China and India becoming part of the global market, depending upon the supply and demand situation, there are tremendous fluctuations in prices. Now that is very dangerous, I think, because your parents did not have to deal with these kind of ups and downs of life, which you got to deal with. The prices will go up, next year prices will drop. So it will be very, very difficult to bet your life based on any kind of projections. The world will become significantly more uncertain. That is what the third point is all about. The fourth point is about a very fundamental shift. So far in the last 50,000 years, now I'm not talking about 5,000 years, 50,000 years. Generally, economic development has happened around consumption. You consume more, you extract things from the nature, you process it and throw the garbage into the nature. Linear. But we are running out of raw materials. At the same time, we are running out of places where we can throw the garbage. The world cannot take any more carbon dioxide. Global warming. The world doesn't have any place to throw the garbage because the whole world is becoming garbage. So the challenge is, how do we shift economic models which are not consumption-centered, but conservation-centered? And that's where again India is advantage. Because we are a poor country, we have generally been conservation-centered. But unfortunately, youngsters today are developing a consumption-centered capacity. I think we have to go back to our old practices where we use a kettle. If it is rusted, we make it a flower pot. Right? The kettle has got so 10 years your mother has used it as a kettle. But when it starts rusting, little holes, okay, it becomes a flower pot. Then it becomes more rusted, and you take off the back bottle, use the top as a cover. So the life cycle of a kettle is 30 years. Typical Indian household. Used to be.
Your pot used to be recycled and used by not one children but many children.
Many children. No, I think we have to bring back some of this sort of stuff because that's where the world is going to go. How to become conservation eco-friendly. And then, of course, the general philosophy over the last 50 years, I would say, has been to move towards market economics. India also made that choice that we are becoming capitalistic. But I think if you look at the new thinking, particularly of the meltdown, people are challenging the concept of market. People are worried about the people at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, is socialism an answer or communism an answer? I don't know. But let me tell you, capitalism is also not an answer. So you have an opportunity. What is the opportunity? To define the next discipline. So I call it Xism, X to be defined. X, which we'll be talking this evening in the IMC. You guys are all invited. I'll give you a lecture and Indian merchant traders this evening.
What I don't get, why is always when there's something undefined, it always set X as compared to any other product?
That's we'll do offline. I have an answer for that. I have an answer for that. That was how Isaac Newton chose. Now, next one I have to make. This is a strategy class in 5 seconds. This is what I do when I give lectures at Harvard Business School on strategy. What is the strategy? The reason I'm switching now, I gave you the picture of the world, where the world is right. Now the question is, what is your strategy? Now you know roughly where the world might go. How do you engage? And when you think of any kind of engagement, it has to be a strategic engagement, where you enjoy a competitive advantage vis-a-vis your competitors. So there are 3 fundamental vectors that you have to keep in mind. The first one is what I would call the value vector. What is the value proposition that you can bring? What it could be solarization, as I call it these days, instead of globalization. Think of what is the value that bring to the renewable energy space. The second is the efficiency. And one of your faculty members was telling me that, we don't necessarily think of you, but think of what you have and make it significantly more efficient. That's what the Japanese did. And you'll be surprised to know when you look at a car today, you realize 10% of the energy we use for moving the car, 90% is wasted. Could you guys get into the automotive technology and really study what it is all about? And then say that, look, when I put in 1 gallon of gasoline, could I use 90% of the gasoline energy to move the car as opposed to 90% wasted? The third is obviously reach. Any product that you develop, particularly the fundamental, you have to see that you have a maximum reach so you can reach out to the world. Any development has a very short life cycle because knowledge intensity of society by definition means today what is good, tomorrow it will not be good. So when it is good, take advantage of it as fast as you could and reach out to the whole world. Okay? Now given those 3 vectors, the right side what you're looking at is what I call the strategic game board. The game board is, I'm trying to capture in 2 dimensions. What is the nature of the business? What is the scope of what you want to do? Now you can say, I want to develop solar cells, or you can say that I want to bring efficient energy solutions to average middle class households. The scope is much broader. Efficient energy solutions to middle class households versus I want to develop solar energy. Scope of what is the game. And the other one is one of the competitive rules. One is to say that I'll follow the rules which the industry has set for me. Or you could say I change the rules. Now if you look at people like Bill Gates, people like Michael Dell, they have continuously changed the rules. They're not playing within the rules. They created new rules. So people who play with the new rules, with new scope, I call them the pathfinders. Finding new paths. And what is good about the time that you guys are living through right now is that you have tremendous opportunity to play a pathfinding. New way of bringing value to the world, new rules through which you offer the value. And in the process, you become a pathfinder. Now, obviously, in other places, you have other roles, but I think much of the opportunity in the next 50 years, 25 years, will be playing the pathfinding role in specific area of your interest. So, You play that role. The fundamental point which goes back to Vedic philosophy is know thyself. And three ways, once you have known yourself, there are three ways you can engage. One way is to people who have tremendous courage, would say that I would like to shape the future. Literally, the future that you do not know, but you like to shape. Few of you would say, well, you know, I'm not so courageous. I may not be able to shape, but I'll adapt to the future. Let the future appear, but I will continually change myself to play my role in the future. And then there's a third category. Nothing wrong to be in the third case, where you said that really I do not want to shape, I cannot adapt, but I reserve the right to choose the winning horse. And you stay in touch with the horse and watch all the horses. And then depending upon who is winning, you choose and run the horse. But each one of them needs your ability to know yourself. None of them, I wouldn't say one is superior to the other. Each one requires a very different type of mindset and capability we are making. And each one of you have to use this 2-year program to find out where you are and how you want to live. Anyone would volunteer? Where do you belong if you have done some search? Anyone? You're in that mode. What do you think so? Change by doing it. You're in the shape mode. How many of you are in shape mode? Very good. That's very encouraging. Now, if you are in the shape mode, my advice to all of you would be that look, start thinking of, what is it that you want to shape around? Really dig deep. I mean, I can bet you can do it. I'll take that risk. To say everyone will raise the hand. But be serious about it. Really serious about it. It's not easy. How many of you are in the adapt? Don't be shy. Very good. Very good. And reserve the right. Right. Excellent. Now you look very confident on reserve the right now. Your hand went up very rapidly. So what is it? What do you feel so good about?
It's just being safe. I mean, it's not that I don't decide where to go. I don't want to be responsible to shape the future because I know it may or may not influence people. So I'd rather be safe and go with the.
So I think I'm very impressed that many of you are quite sure. Any of you are unsure? One.
Not a thought of what is it.
Not yet thought about it. So you want to be, you want to think through. No, that's very good because it's very difficult to know yourself. It's a huge task. It's easier to know people around you, but to know who you are is a very serious task. But I'm glad to know that many of you have figured out who you are. So I think you should take full advantage. Now, let me sort of.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Okay, Parth, you've got another group like this sitting in the next group.
Okay.
Watching you on video. So there's a question from
Okay.
on this.
Very good.
Let me just read that out to you. Is there any way I can evaluate myself as to in which mode I should be?
Which mode I should be?
You might want to go back one.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, that's the only one. I'll just repeat this. Is there any way I can evaluate myself as to in which mode I should be?
Okay. Let me just adjust this. think the answer is yes, of course you could, but what should be the process would depend upon each individual. But let me lay out some ground rules that perhaps would be of benefit to each one of you. What I have done over time in my leadership class is that I would ask you to choose a hero that you would like to become like, a hero or heroine that you like. I'm not being Bollywood heroes. I mean, it could be anyone. It could be your mother, it could be your Vivekananda, it could be Adam Smith, it could be Washington, George Washington, whoever. Now, once you know, and then if you can spot one person, that's great. But if you think that these are the kinds of individuals which touches me, then try to understand what are the dimensions of his or her personality that you really like. I normally use a 7-dimensional radar chart. Think of radar, 7 dimensions, 7 axes. And it is important to ensure that each of the axes are independent of each other. Do not say that he is very good in communication, and then another axis says he can touch people very easily. To me, they are same. So picking up those dimensions which are truly mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. Okay? So once you have done that, it will become very clear to you that what are the elements of the personality that you really like in the hero. For example, if I look at Vivekananda, I might see those 7 dimensions which are very different from what Joyner you might see, though we appreciate the same personality. But the 7 things that I look at Vivekananda is very different from the way Jack looks at Vivekananda, for example. So that time you will know that where you belong, because you might see that you like Vivekananda's ability, mastery of Vedic knowledge, for example, which is knowing a lot about the past. If you like the mastery of Vedic, it's more reserve the right. And I know a lot, I would choose the Vedic knowledge to my advantage as I unfold my spiritual path. That's one approach. But if you ask me what I like about Vivekananda, I like about his courage. At the age of 26, he was not invited. He goes to Chicago and gives a brilliant speech and positions India on the global stage in one shot. 5 minutes. India earned a different stature. And Indian philosophy earned a different stature. So he's more the shape the future. And that the future would be, people who, again, it depends upon, again, Vivekananda could be put in that category also. Because, when he came back to India, there were a lot of challenges he was facing to establish Ramakrishna Mission. But he was very frustrated because he was getting a lot of money from the West, 0 from India. Though there were a lot of Maharajas living in beautiful palaces. He visited them in Rajasthan and other places. And he was very frustrated. How come my countrymen cannot see the value of Vedic philosophy which the Westerners see? But he did not upset them. He kept them in the room. And he was adapting to the conditions of India to establish this movement. So I think, what personality of Vivekananda, I'm just using again Vivekananda's example, he would fall into any of the 3 categories. But if you ask Vivekananda where he belonged, most probably he would be on the first one. So did I answer that question? Maybe you want to check?
There's a hidden question over here which I would like to ask. He has phrased it in this fashion, whoever written it. Is there any way I can evaluate myself as to in which mode I should? Now, should we as an individual decide where I should be or where I am?
No, I think we should not say where I should be.
Where am I?
I think you have to be honest with yourself. Because that's a very good question. Intellectual honesty is perhaps the most important. Genuineness, which I call it. There's nothing wrong in being in the third mode versus the first. You know, by knowing who you are and then be honest to that and stick to it and go full out and do it right. I think that's what we need to do.
So sorry to interrupt, but can't it be like situational? Depending upon the situation, I can rule myself into say this.
Of course it could be. Of course it could be. So I think that's a very good question again, because now when I talk about the leadership class, but tomorrow I'll be doing an executive program on leadership on the matter of Unitedworld. You know, there are two universes that we have to connect at the end of the day. One is the universe within each of them, and then the universe outside. Now, depending upon which is the universe outside that you're engaging with, which is the point you're talking about, maybe certain elements of your universe within to connect differently. You know, when I went to the United States, I think I was in the second group. Adapting to the culture, I was very much appreciating, not because it was America, but I was like enjoying my students, colleagues, my classmates, how they were raising questions, some of them were absolutely stupid questions. The courage with them to raise the questions. This Nobel Prize winner was teaching on the chemical engineering at MIT. And the way, so one side I appreciated the boldness, and at the same time I appreciated the humility of the professor. He didn't say that's a stupid question. He said, that's a very good question, and I really do not know how to answer it. That's a typical, I mean, that says it, because India is just the other approach. I am sure is a very common word in it. Everyone is so sure that India is ready to take off. I'm sure this will happen without knowing what we're talking about. But in America, what I learned, that often people, however educated and knowledgeable that person is, the opening statement is often the most part and wrong. But let me try to take a point of view. And then he makes a profound statement. But then he ends by saying, most part I confused you, please excuse me. These are the little things I noticed when I was a student. I worked very hard to develop that. Because normally in Indian efforts that doesn't exist at all. Very just opposite.
In India, we want solutions to be done by others rather than finding out.
There's a lot of problems. The solutions are others, then we always pretend we know everything, even if you do not know. Whereas the MIT, I used to know, because not only in MIT at Harvard, but in all the institutions that I visited, that there is the genuineness in being humble. And there's genuinely humble. Because who knows what is the right answer to any question? How could I afford to even say? I feel that I sound stupid when I say I'm sure. On what basis I can be sure? But every event is changing the equation. That's Heisenberg's principle in physics, right? That when you take temperature of a liquid, as soon as I dip the thermometer, the temperature of the liquid is changing because the heat gets transferred. Now we do not, as Indians, I do not want to sound that I'm too critical because I love the country and I talk because I see the big India, not even small India that we don't have. That we have given up a lot of our fundamental ethos of thinking, ethics of thinking, the spirit of inquiry, and in the process unfolding of personalities as two personalities. We're thinking of very short term, I want a job, I want to get married, I want to go to Bollywood, I want to see a movie, I want a club membership. It's brought up with a lot of little things, and we're missing the big picture. And that is the problem. And that's why I want to see Unitedworld becomes a differential. And you're very lucky to have people, the faculty members that have it, and I was very, very impressed with the kind of questions they're raising. And obviously the questions, see, I'm not saying kind of solutions are suggested. Solutions will be what? These are kind of questions you raise which makes the why would that be a problem? So I think that's where I think the real challenge is. The questioning spirit in the process being genuine and not feeling bad about any choice you make in this spectrum. At least these are, by the way, many others don't care. There's another whole fourth option. I don't care. So these are the chosen few. But shaping the future is not a superior track by any means. In fact, many people who have succeeded are the reserve the right times. They stay in touch. They do exactly what is the right moment, the right opportunity comes along. They act. So, Ajanta, how do you take the time?
Well, we probably got another half an hour conference left. Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'll do is, since many of you are very interested in tornadoes, now I'm moving on to the next. What is the world that you are in? Now I see that you are living in the middle of not one tornado, which we discussed earlier. There are three tornadoes which are fundamentally altering the way civilization might shape the next 35 years. And you have to decide whether you want to become a victim of the tornado or you want to become victorious. Choices. You have to make a decision right now. And what you have to really understand is three tornadoes. The first tornado, which many of you get very excited, whenever I come in, people say, wow, you should work on McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, investment banks, all of you feel so good, particularly when you're doing MBA class. But the biggest problem has been over-engineering of economic undermining of ethics. And I would use the word, that's why I'm a bit cautious, I would like the word economics, but over-engineering of finance and undermining of ethics. The derivatives, super derivatives, options, stock market, bets, options, puts, all kinds of terms of it. Bet on the company going down, you make money. Someone bets on the company going up, you make money. Someone predicts this company will go bankrupt, you make money. This whole engineering has been misapplied in the world of finance. And that's what you saw in the last year. In the United States, and that's spread all over the world, including Hong Kong Stock Exchange. That's tornado one, which is a very, very serious tornado. The people with power, the people with money must lack ethics. And that's dangerous. Whole capitalism is based on ethics, based on trust. When I say that you will manufacture something for me, I'll give you some money in advance and if you don't deliver it to me. Or I say I'll buy something from you, you manufacture it, and then when it comes to deliver, I say, I'm sorry, I don't want to buy it from you, I buy it from Ireland. Capitalism doesn't work. Lack of ethics, that's not what happens. The second tornado, which is perhaps more serious tornado, what I call a clash of perspectives. Now, if you really look at yourself today, you have moved into an instant culture, right? You're going through an MBA program, you want a good job instantly. Instantly you want to become Bill Gates. Instantly you want to become the CEO of a company, I want an MBA degree. And when the internet is slow, when you are surfing, you will start hitting the keyboard a couple of times, a bit harder, with the hope that you come up, but you do not realize that it's going to take more time because you're sending out signals, which confuses the CPU. On the other side, the problem that we are facing, they're tremendously long-range character. Needs long-range personality, needs long-range perspective. So on one side, our mindsets are becoming short-term. Wall Street, be it, or the internet, be it. digitization. But the problems that you're facing is long-term capacity. And that's a very, very dangerous perspective. And that's one of the reasons why we've been talking about energy and ecology for the last 50 years. It's unresolvable. Because the self-interest, which is the center of capitalism, is basically saying that make money as soon as you can, serve the net as soon as you can. I do not have time to wait, I want to go to the next page. But in the process, what is happening to your mind? You cannot undertake anything which takes 5 or 7 years to solve. But the problems we are facing today, whether it's energy or ecology, needs a 15-year perspective. It's a very serious challenge. That's the tornado number 2. And tornado number 3 is all very familiar. I call the imbalances of the 3 E's. 3 E's you're familiar with. Ecological imbalance, equity imbalance, which is the gap between rich and poor, and third is the energy imbalance. That energy is where it's located and where it is being consumed. It's a huge gap. And in fact, you're running out of energy versus the energy. But these are very, very 3 tornado. And the way these 3 turbulences would shape, I call it TQ. If there are 3 of the turbulences that happen at the same time, would fundamentally has to be created in the world.
You said about the first tornado where we lack ethics. So do you see India going towards US contract bound mentality?
Oh yeah, India is too much moving towards the US. I don't know why, but right for it. There's a lot to learn from US. We are not learning anything positive from the US. The positive from the US, when I talked about the student, I talked about the professor, the can-do spirit, the humility with which they engage with the global problems, the courage with which they come forward to address. That is the part we are not learning. We are learning, the cigarette smoking, as they say, which we picked up from the British, or the club culture that we have picked up. But what did the British do right in the system? The way they set up the railway system. A lot of things Britishers did right, we did not do. And if you look at the way the railway system was set up, it really reached out to a lot of small towns and villages. It's really connected with India. Post-independence, we did not work on it. In fact, India got segregated, the top 2% and the bottom 98%. That gap got created. And now, of course, India is getting segmented every day. Every state is getting broken into multiple states. So I think you have to really sit back. As much as we appreciate the last 15 years of India's success, I don't see it. In fact, I feel India has taken several steps backward. Yes, in the IT field and some pockets in like Bangalore or Ahmedabad, a few things have happened, which is nice. But it is equally true in Andhra Pradesh there have been maximum number of farmer suicides. It's equally true Andhra Pradesh is falling apart into 2 states. Equally true Hyderabad and the emerge of the modern city. Again, where do you want to focus on that? 70% of the population or the top 1%? It's your choice.
So you had spoken about sitting at the bottom of the pyramid. There is second tornado out here, that is a mismatch of the glass of perspective of short-term and long-term gain. So I feel this is someday affecting that ideology.
Of course.
So what
That's why the bottom of the pyramid is not getting addressed. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So
The long-term perspective to address the 80% of the world, which is the bottom of the pyramid, which is what, 6.5 multiplied by 0.8. How many? Close to 5 million people who are living at $2 or below, right? That needs long-term perspective.
So how we as future entrepreneurs are supposed to balance this?
Sorry?
As future entrepreneurs, how we are supposed to balance this gap?
No, I think not some, you don't have to balance the gap. You get engaged with some problems at the bottom of the pyramid in a long-term perspective. That's all honestly I would do. As opposed to not expect some instant success. If you are socially conscious. On the other side, if you want to become rich and become one of the members of the top of the pyramid, so be it, choose that well and become. But then my request would be, set aside some of your time and money to touch the bottom of the pyramid. So you have a choice to make. One approach is that look, I'll become like Bill Gates, I'm just using his name. But Bill Gates has put in $50 billion in the Melinda Gates Foundation. And touching the bottom of the pyramid. That's one approach.